committee. Thank you.
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I appreciate the member over there, and with all due respect to him, if you ever wanted to get a classic Tory speech, then that's it. And obviously the research unit have once again dragged out the template and given it to the... I know the member over there is far better than that speech, but it's a classic Tory speech. The cost of everything and the value of nothing. Here's the point. We support this piece of legislation. In fact, we developed the concept of one hub for information sharing. We did so on the basis of our border systems being more effective. But what this national government has come in and said, oh, we want them to be more efficient, so we'll focus on the $45 million that's going to be saved every year. Well, good luck to them. They've saved $26 million in the cost of MPI too. And we are now starting to see the value that is being destroyed from a ideologically driven government that wants to drive down the investment, drive down the cost, and forget the value of what we're doing here, Mr Speaker. We support this and the concept of it. It's just about evolving technology. It's about sharing information, but being more effective. Efficiency is a great objective, but it shouldn't necessarily be the sole objective, particularly when it comes to the issue of border protection for trade coming in and out of this country, to ensure that our reputation for outgoing goods or our biosecurity for incoming goods, the value of which we cannot calculate. We cannot calculate the lost value of our reputation through the latest debacle over meat and dairy exports. We'll be a long time trying to calculate the cost of that. In the same way that if we let into this country any major biosecurity incursion, we don't know what that will do to this country. The government might try and establish the cost of it, but the value of having proper border security, proper customs security, is something difficult to calculate over the long term. Well, the government's worked out $45 million a year, in the same way that it could say it saved $260 million over 10 years from driving efficiency in the Ministry of Primary Industries. Well, we're now starting to see the cost of that. Ask exporters of our food products what is going to be the lost value for them in the marketplace of the massive botch-up that we've seen over dairy, over meat. So the point is that the Border Processing Trade Single Window and Duties Bill that we are discussing here is a good objective, a good exercise, but if it's just driven by ideology and efficiency and not driven to give us a more effective system of border protection and protection of our country from unwanted goods, then I suggest the government's got it wrong. Mr Speaker, we have seen their consistent approach to that. The first budget we had in terms of border security was a cut to biosecurity of $2 million, the loss of 48 frontline jobs, Mr Speaker, and a squeeze on a large number of other government agencies. That's what they were doing to give efficiency, but at a big cost to effectiveness. And we're starting to see that roll out. Mr Speaker, we've had PSA, we've had the giant white butterfly, we've had Varroa. Mr Speaker, we've just recently seen that scorpions have been brought into this country. So clearly the system's not effective enough. Well, that's true. Yeah, they've got a few scorpions over there now, and there'll be a few more stings coming for the poor average Kiwi worker in the months to come if we allow them to get away with what they want to. Mr. Speaker, I'll come back to the bill before us, Mr. Speaker, and say that conceptually this is the right thing to do. The bill in principle is the right thing to do. We're just simply aligning the information database and platform so that we can check and investigate. But let's not forget what's actually being done at the moment. That is a systems analysis, and the sharing of this information will allow that to develop further. So we're not checking people more closely. We're not checking goods more closely, Mr. Speaker. We're just putting in place better systems, or so we're told. Better systems with less money, so we're told. More efficient, we're told. Mr. Speaker, what I want to know is, are they going to be effective? Are we going to correctly identify through the new efficient systems where there is real risk to this country? And the performance of border management agencies, in spite of them identifying and capturing some drug hauls, and I applaud them for that. This is no reflection on the frontline staff, Mr. Speaker. I get emails from biosecurity staff who have walked from the jobs because they can't ethically remain in place knowing they're not doing what they should be able to do, what they need to do. So there's a compromise here, and Mr. Speaker, my concern is that in the drive for efficiency that the government is determined to undertake at every level of government responsibility, the effectiveness of the systems is being undermined. Mr. Speaker, the trade single window that we're aiming to have here, a bit like the smart gate system for individual travellers, poses huge risks for us long term if not properly resourced, and if we don't have the investment in the best technology. And I see what we're exposing now is that in the area of trade certification and clearance, the reality, in spite of the ministers over there cutting funding, continuing to get up on their hind legs and say, we have world's best practice, we have the world's best systems, the facts are that we do not. And we need more investment in the area of border protection. And if, like a couple of other bills being passed through this House under urgency, the objective of government is to have them as fiscally neutral, then what we're doing here is maybe improving the database, but if we don't have the resources to go with it, Mr. Speaker, we won't have a more effective or better system in place. And that is what Labor supports, moving to a more effective system of border processing, Mr. Speaker, but keeping in mind our ultimate objective, and that is protecting us from unwanted goods or persons or products or organisms, because we have a huge advantage internationally, both through our reputation, the value of which is impossible to calculate, the cost of which this government does every single day, and it thinks driving down the costs is going to give us better outcomes. That is a dangerous strategy to undertake, and the members getting up and saying that this is going to save $450 million, etc., and put more money back into the pockets of people. Mr. Speaker, ask the exporters what is the cost of the latest debacle around dairy. Ask the exporters what is the latest cost of the debacle around meat, and you very quickly get to tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And so the projected savings quickly disappear if we don't end up with a more effective system, not just a more efficient system. And I know there are members over there scratching their heads saying, what's the difference? Because they've never heard of that. But hopefully they'll take time to reflect. I know maybe the next speaker might explain that. Time to reflect on the reality that effectiveness is more important than efficiency. Because when it comes to our reputation, when it comes to our border protection, to this current privileged position that we have relatively low disease, we have a reasonably safe, uncorrupted and healthy and safe environment. We don't want that compromised by an ineffective system.
Member's
So
time has
effectiveness,
expired.
not just efficiency.
I call Stephen Browning.